The writing was on the wall. Though the Confederacy of Independent Systems still had the will to fight until they were recognized as independent, it was apparent to all that the Republic was winning the war. With no signs of the Grand Army of the Republic stopping its march towards victory, desperate attacks and risky gambits would characterize the final year of the Clone Wars, especially for the CIS. Welcome to the Wizards and Warriors channel. We're glad to have you with us for our next jump into the Star Wars universe. As is our custom, we invite you to get comfortable, grab a beverage, and cuddle your favorite Clone Trooper plushie as we recount the early phase of the final year of the Clone Wars and the Battle of Scipio. Though minor skirmishes and battles would continue to take place, Onderon, which we covered in our last installment, was the final major action of the year 20 BBY. As the year turned into 19 BBY, the Republic offensive was grinding ever forward. Felucia, Seleucami, and Megiddo were heavily contested, with more fleets poised to strike other targets. But a troubling event was also set to occur on the planet leading the coalition of neutral star systems, Mandalore. Viewers of our series will know of the world of Mandalore. Still, for first-time viewers, Mandalore is a famous planet within the galaxy, primarily due to its martial culture and renowned warriors who went toe-to-toe with even the Jedi at several points. However, those days were long behind the planet, as the current administration, led by the Duchess of the planet, Satine Kryze, championed a pacifist movement dubbed New Mandalore, with policies in place that sought to move the people away from their warring past, including disarmament, revised education, and moving the capital from the historical capital of Keldabe to Sundari. It was by no means an easy or short process, but as the years went on, New Mandalore was becoming more of a reality than a dream. This dream had its opposition, and with its successful progress, the opposition began to turn violent in their attempts to tear New Mandalore down and restore its militaristic traditions. Though there were many different cells, the largest and most active was known as Death Watch, led by the ex-governor of Concordia, Pre Vizsla. He was able to keep his involvement with Death Watch a secret until he attempted to kill the Duchess, along with her friend Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi. The two successfully escaped his assassination attempts, and he went into hiding, his true allegiance now revealed. That was years ago by now. Since his exposure, Death Watch had been fairly inactive due to their loss of personnel in key positions, though they still gathered support, as the continuation of the wider war brought hardships to Mandalore, forcing them to rely heavily on the black market to bring in necessary imports. This revelation would cause a scandal that forced the Prime Minister of Mandalore, a man named Almec, to step down. Death Watch would find an opportunity within the worsening situation, or it would be more appropriate to say an outside actor would seize the initiative, a group known as the Shadow Collective. Though Pre Vizsla was a leader of this newly formed group, the collective's true architect was someone far more cunning and devious, the recently re-emerged Sith Lord Maul, along with his brother Savage Opress. Having gathered support via coercion and extravagant promises, Maul was able to gather several crime syndicates together to make the collective. With their support, he planned to overthrow Satine and place Pre Vizsla on the throne of Mandalore. With the Republic fully committed to their offensive, and the CIS having no forces to intervene, Maul set his plan in motion. Possibly using the aforementioned illicit black market dealings as a paper excuse, he sent the crime families of the collective to attack Mandalore. This set Satine's government into a panic. As though they tried to subdue the attacks, they stood little chance, being that they had no standing army and the forces they did have lacked any military experience. It became bad enough that the people of Sundari marched on the palace and demanded action from the Duchess. This is when their apparent saviors arrived. Pre Vizsla came with Death Watch at his back and promised to beat back the invaders and restore peace to Mandalore. They did this with obvious ease, just as Maul planned. The victory also gained Death Watch the adulation of the people, who, with the years of struggle due to the war having taken a heavy toll on them, and feeling as though Satine couldn't protect them, elected Pre Vizsla as the new leader of Mandalore, ousting Satine and her government. It would not take long for the victors to quarrel among themselves, as Pre Vizsla had Maul and Savage arrested and thrown in prison, where he also placed Satine. Maul had anticipated this, however. He approached and ousted the also imprisoned Prime Minister Almec, and proposed for him to rule as a puppet in place while Maul took control, to which Almec agreed. With all going according to plan, Maul easily broke free of the prison and made his way to the palace, challenging Vizsla to a duel for the right to lead. Vizsla, as a champion of Mandalore's old traditions, was honour bound to accept. The duel was brief, with Maul defeating and then beheading Vizsla, taking control of Deathwatch and most of the Mandalorians save for a small subset who refused to follow a non-Mandalorian like Maul, causing a violent outbreak between the factions. These rebels were led by Satine's disillusioned sister Bo-Katan, who, after escaping Maul, tried to free her sister, realizing the devil's deal they had made in accepting the Sith Lord's aid and hoping her good relations with the Republic could overturn their current dilemma. They were able to break Satine out, and she sent a message to the Jedi Temple, but she was soon recaptured. The situation alarmed the Jedi, but they had no men or material to spare, given most of their experienced fighters were fighting in the Outer Rim. Luckily for Satine, her old friend Kenobi was able to respond. They couldn't send military forces, so they opted for a breakout mission to free Satine and use her for political backing of a later invasion of Mandalore. That is where their luck would end, as Kenobi, like Bo-Katan, was able to free Satine, but she and Kenobi were soon recaptured by Maul, who was able to cut off their escape. Maul then executed Satine in front of Kenobi within the palace, satisfying a long-standing grudge he held against Kenobi and wanting to even the score with him. This also took out his opposition's legitimate figurehead. Maul would, however, regret not killing Kenobi as soon Bo-Katan freed the Jedi and he escaped the world as a civil war engulfed the city of Sundari. Though this was a good opportunity for the CIS or the Republic to intervene and bring the lead planet of the neutral star systems on their side, they did not do so. This speaks volumes about not only each side's fighting condition at this point, but also how much each side had committed to their current campaigns. With the pressure the Republic was putting on the front, the CIS hoped to divert the Republic's attention and secure vital resources they desperately needed. One of these was the heart of the Trade Federation, Cato Nemoida. The Separatists sent a force to take the planet, to place it officially in CIS hands, given the Federation's alleged neutrality in the conflict so far, despite clear support of the CIS. In response, the Republic sent General Skywalker and Commander Tano with their 501st Legion to repulse the attack, but their foe was still as hard to fight as ever, and a bombing incident at the Jedi Temple forced both commanders to be recalled. The advance stalled, and the Republic left Cato Nemoida to the Separatists, with intent to capture it another day. Seeing their success, the CIS tried to replicate it by attacking Ringo Vinda, which held an orbital shipyard, something they vitally needed to continue the war. They were able to seize it in a lightning strike led by the presumed dead Admiral Trench. To retake the shipyard, the Republic dispatched General Skywalker and the 501st yet again, this time aided by additional forces commanded by the Jedi twins Tiplar and Tipli. Thanks to their numerical advantage in ships supplied by the Open Circle fleet, they were able to board the shipyards. But a fierce fight lasting several days brought nothing but stalemate, as each hall and hangar was savagely fought over. Skywalker devised a strategy that brought them within striking distance of Trench's headquarters, but the death of Tiplar due to friendly fire ruined the momentum of the assault, and ground the fight to a stalemate yet again. Nothing more is said of this battle, but due to events later on, we can guess that the CIS were forced to abandon the shipyards due to a necessity for their forces to be deployed on other fronts, as well as the shipyards serving no functional purpose whilst the Republic held them under siege. Across the galaxy, another situation was developing, this time with the Intergalactic Banking Clan. The Banking Clan, or the IGBC, was the primary source of funds for both sides throughout the war. Lending loans to both sides made them seem like a true neutral party, unlike the Trade Federation, whose blatant actions in backing the CIS made it apparent who they were truly affiliated with. However, the IGBC facade had begun to crumble. Their former chairman being on the Separatist Council became apparent to the Republic, thanks to an investigation by Senators Amidala and Clovis. Clovis being the former senator that represented the Banking Clan. The investigation revealed corruption perpetrated by the Five, the leaders of the IGBC, who sought to line their own pockets, as well as revealing the IGBC's dealings with the CIS, loaning them money with no interest. With this now out in the open, the Five were promptly removed from power, and as a reward for his part, Rush Clovis was installed as leader of the IGBC. But his success would ultimately prove to be his undoing, as Count Dooku had played a role in helping him uncover the corruption, and now he came to demand repayment. Not long after he had become leader of the IGBC, Clovis raised interest rates on Republic loans, with Dooku forcing him under threat of blackmail. This understandably infuriated the Senate, which began to debate measures to be taken, one of which included the occupation of Scipio, the headquarters of the IGBC, but soon news would reach them that would hasten their debate. Amidala's Republic delegation, which consisted of her, a few servants, and a detachment of the Coruscant Guard under Commander Thorn, had yet to depart Scipio and were trying to convince Clovis to reverse his decision, but soon they were set upon by a CIS invasion force. Dooku had arrived with his personal flotilla of 3 Munificent-class frigates, 2 dual-hemisphere omni-support vessels, and his flagship, a Providence-class dreadnought. Ordering his forces to immediately occupy the planet, they unleashed their Hyena bombers to rake the landing pads, catching the clones unaware. Many of them would be killed by the bombs, along with destroying all of their ships. Thorn commanded the rest of his men to make way for the city gates, where they could mount a more effective defense, but droid dropships cut them off and landed B-2 battle droids and commandos, both between them and the gate and behind them. Thorn warned Amidala of the danger, and seeing as he could do nothing more, he and his guard decided to take down as many droids as they could, though they had no hope of victory, as each was cut down in turn until only Thorn himself remained. He heroically took down several enemy droids before falling to multiple shots himself. Amidala, meanwhile, was trapped within the city, as Dooku had made sure to target all spacecraft and either destroy or capture them. Amidala was able to set up a hologram connection to Chancellor Palpatine and explain the situation, and with the meeting ending in her capture, there could be only one response. The Senate convened for an emergency vote and called for an immediate occupation of Scipio, as it was evident to them that Clovis and the IGBC had chosen their side. Skywalker was put in command of the operation and was given a fleet that consisted of 3 Venator-class Star Destroyers and 2 Architens-class light cruisers, as well as his command of the 501st Legion. Upon arrival at the planet, Skywalker had his fighters deployed in the first line, and in the second he placed his dropships with himself in direct command, trusting his fleet to pin the enemy in place while he and the clones captured Scipio. It soon became apparent that the Separatists were outmatched, as they began to take heavy losses, and Dooku ordered the flotilla's withdrawal after Skywalker had pierced the line. On the ground, the CIS forces were unaware of the situation and prepared to parry the assault, deploying Hyena bombers to intercept the dropships. They were beaten back and forced to contend with the clones' Arc fighters, who were escorting them. Once they deployed on the landing pads, they quickly pushed the droids back against the gates. Skywalker pushed ahead to rescue Senator Amidala, leaving Captain Rex in command to finish the droid forces off. He would do so not long after. Thanks to the Republic's near-total air superiority, the battle began to sputter out, and with Skywalker able to save Amidala, the battle was brought to an end. The fall of Scipio and the death of Clovis in the fight left the banking clan in the hands of the Republic. Though many were puzzled as to the actions of Clovis and his CIS allies, it was chalked up to another lash-out attempt, like the CIS had been doing in recent months. Others, however, grew concerned, particularly with the rising powers of the Chancellor. Palpatine had full legislative control, full power over the military, and was now given control of the banking clan. Many wondered if he would give up his emergency powers as the war seemingly approached its end, or was the Republic perhaps changing into something no one had thought possible? Our coverage of the Clone Wars will continue in the coming weeks, so subscribe and press the bell button. Please consider liking, subscribing, commenting and sharing, it helps immensely. Our videos would be impossible without our kind patrons and YouTube channel members, whose ranks you can join via the links in the description to know our schedule, get early access to our videos, access our Discord, and much more. This is the Wizards and Warriors channel, and we will catch you on the next one.